So over the course of the next few months, I'm going to be getting the best physique of my life. I was just in Hawaii and I've already made the transition from strength season into endurance season. Just stepped on the scale this morning and at 6 feet tall, I'm just over 200 pounds, down from 215. So I already have a lot of the leanness that I'm looking for. And by peak summer, I will be in peak physique. Now, having said all that, if you haven't been putting up PRs all winter long in powerlifting, I would still seriously consider doing some of the things I'm about to talk about. Like if you're just a beginner, not to worry. This is all stuff you might still want to consider, because my personal belief is if you are just starting, you should start with a solid foundation. A lot of times people suggest that newcomers to fitness bulk up, add indiscriminate size and strength, and eat everything in sight. I suggest the opposite. I think in the beginning, it is more advantageous to get lean, to trim the fat, to expose your foundation, to really see what you're working with. Not only will this give you a solid foundation to build on, but the actual process of getting lean, like intense daily cardio, for example. This is gonna build you a strong mind that will push your body further when you pick up the weights and start seriously lifting. So without further ado, here is what I am talking about, the actual strategy. A lot of this stuff will be diet and routine and lifestyle related, because the core of my exercise is gonna stay the same, with only a few minor changes, adjustments, especially on the cardio side of things. And obviously my fitness dailies will change going into the summer season. I've really enjoyed the 10-minute daily ab bike that I've been doing all spring, but going into summer, I'm gonna go back to 10-minute daily leg raises. From an aesthetic perspective, which is the goal for peak physique, nothing beats leg raises for core. And people will say that leg raises are just like a hip flexor exercise, and this is not true. They are perhaps when your hip flexors are weak, but they will get strong from doing 10 quick sets of leg raises in 10 minutes every day. And once your hip flexors get strong, you can kind of concentrate the squeeze wherever you want. In your low abs, in your high abs with a little bit more tilt, even your obliques with a little bit more twist. So leg raises are really a full core exercise. They're not just good for waistline. So for my eventual summer season of fitness dailies, I'm gonna be doing 10-minute daily leg raises. I'm thinking of a daily reverse curl to target some forearm gains, and I'm not sure about a third fitness daily for summer. I haven't got that far yet. So fitness dailies will change, and cardio. Cardio. I'm gonna be cranking up the output dial. I'm gonna be hitting the trail hard, a lot more hiking, running, cycling, almost every day, at least every other day. Everything else I do in terms of my weekly exercises all week long stays the same. Still bench and dips on Monday, barbell rows on Tuesday, squats on Wednesday, overhead press on Thursday, pull-ups on Friday, deadlifts and RDLs on Saturday, reserving Sunday for a day of active rest, active recovery. I'm a firm believer that if you really want recovery, if you really want those muscles to heal, you need to take some initiative. You need to stimulate that healing process. And the best way to do this is through blood flow, through getting moving. You need nice, rich, oxygenated blood carrying essential nutrients to the muscles in order to heal. Soreness just compounds when sedentary. So just remember that motion is lotion. Nice low to medium intensity walking, jogging. This is perfect for a rest day. You know, the quickest way to get over soreness is to get moving again. And I'm not saying no recovery. I'm not saying you can't allow yourself adequate time off for all you rest maxers out there. I'm saying quite simply what is a fact, and that is the progress you seek, it's on the other side of more work, not less. So further to recovery, I'm gonna be using the Epic Pho King recipe, the Epic Pho King recipe. This is what I found is the best way to bounce back after endurance exercise. I discovered this dish originally in Thailand and then later when I was living in Vietnam. And apologies for my pronunciation, but I found that the combination of red meat, bone broth, herbs, and spices in beef pho is ideal because it is excellent collagen protein, vitamins, and minerals, so great macros and micronutrients. I find it always brings me back from the brink whenever I'm heavily depleted. I've made it a bit of a tradition to always make beef pho after I run a long race or go on a long bike ride or hike in the mountains. So this will be my go-to recovery dish after endurance exercise, of which there will be a lot. Lots of long hikes, lots of long distance, low to medium intensity jaunts through the mountains here in BC, often with nothing in my system. Just drinking from streams. I like lots of these hikes in major deficits, sometimes even complete fast. Last summer I did a 10-hour hike completely fasted. It's really amazing what the body can do. You just really got to make sure that you have no carbs in your system and you're fully in that ketogenic state. Otherwise, you're gonna have a brutal blood sugar crash. And this ketogenic fat burning state is gonna be a big part of my overall strategy as it always is this time of year. More on that later. I'm also gonna start sleep maxing. Gonna do another run through the 90-day dopamine detox. This program is really just, in essence, basically a nice morning and night routine, which helps you reset your sleep-wake schedule, your circadian rhythm. You know, this is such a beautiful time of year and you really want to enjoy it. Personally, my instinct is to just work late. I always feel like I've never done enough and I just need to stay up later and do more. And the result is that throughout the week, I sleep later and later and later. And I'm kidding myself. I'm not actually getting anything done. Like, my productivity goes off the cliff when I'm working late. I'd be better off just going to bed and getting up extra early. And the 90-day dopamine detox is going to help me do this. And that way I can get up and enjoy the birds chirping right before daybreak. Here in Vancouver, we suffer for 8 to 10 months for a few really nice months in summer. We pay for it dearly, a lot of really short, dark days in winter, but summer here is truly magnificent and I don't want to miss even a little bit of it. So I'm doing another round of the 90-day dopamine detox starting again next week on Monday. I really do love this program. As I said, it's a really nice morning and night routine that evolves slowly and gradually, like at a rate you can stick with it over the course of 90 days, introducing a few elements along the way. It's not one of these dopamine detoxes where it's like, here's a bunch of things you can't do. It's not just about eliminating certain behaviors, deactivating strategies, but active strategies for rebuilding focus and attention and restoring sensitivity. Like, I think, for example, around the 1 week mark, I introduced an element of weekly target practice, which is really nice. Just focusing on nothing but hitting a bullseye for 30 minutes a week. It's not a lot, but it does wonders for you. So moving back to diet, I'm gonna be putting a cap on my last meal of the day. All year long, I don't eat until noon every day, but I have no rule for when I have my last meal of the day. And as I said, my instinct is just keep working late, so sometimes my last meal of the day, my dinner, gets pushed back late, and that's gonna change. I'm not gonna eat at least 2 hours before bed. You know, stuffing yourself and lying horizontal for 8 hours is not good for you. So no eating close to bed and a fast every day until noon, with small allowances in that morning fast for small amounts of fat and protein. Because I do have a cup of bone broth first thing when I wake up in the morning, even before my morning cup of coffee. And bone broth is fat and more of that high quality collagen protein. Great way to start your day. A nice hit of protein, vitamins, minerals, and electrolytes. Huge win, great healthy habit. And meal prepping bone broth is so easy. You don't need a recipe for this one. Just head to the butcher. If it's a good butcher, they will likely just give you some beef bones with purchase. So pick up some steaks, ask for some bones, take them home and boil them for 24 hours. Portion out the broth into individual Pyrex containers. Try to get 14 of these containers so you can prep it bi-weekly. You can get 2 weeks worth at a time. Add salt and pepper to each of these individual containers. Freeze them all, and each morning you whip one out of the deep freeze, and easy. So yes, that morning fast is really a carb fast. The idea is to spend as much time as possible, the most of each day possible, without carbs in your system to increase your chances, the likelihood of you spending more time in that ketogenic fat burning state, where you are metabolizing fat as opposed to relying on carbohydrate, glucose, sugar for fuel. And don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against carbs. I'm certainly not one of those people, just as long as you use them. You don't want to just hang on to them and store them. Carbs fuel fantastic and explosive output. The dish that I meal prep for lunch every day, the big bean, is full of complex carbs, which fuels an excellent evening workout with the weights, whereas fat provides more of a slow burn, which is great, sustainable energy for those long hikes and the cardio in the morning in that fasted state. And as far as, you know, actively taking fat in the morning goes, with that cup of bone broth, it's more about the nice high quality collagen protein and electrolytes and minerals first thing in the morning. But there is something to be said about taking fat when you are carb fasted and you're trying to encourage ketosis. And I know there's nothing in the literature that says actively taking fat increases your chances of being in ketosis, and it's really just the absence of carbs that puts you in that fat burning state. But I have to believe your body actually gets better at metabolizing fat the more it metabolizes fat in the absence of carbs. Yes, like if you want to burn fat, feed your body fat. This is why a lot of people take on a ketogenic diet for weight loss. No, it's my belief anyway. Surely there's a metabolic adaptation of some kind. All you have to do is imagine someone who never metabolizes fat and stores it all because they're constantly cramming carbohydrate down themselves with all the fat and no output, and they're seriously overweight, and there's not a 1-for-1 ratio between input and output. Surely this person's body is not efficient at metabolizing fat. It never does it. Anyways, I will try to do my cardio in that carb fasted state in the morning and enjoy some nice long, completely fasted hikes with absolutely nothing in my system, maybe a couple of macadamia nuts. As far as the big bean for lunch every day goes, I've talked extensively about this dish. It's really how I solve the problem. How do you save time and money while providing good nutrition in my construction days? And this seems like an impossible proposition, but I came up with a dish that's basically a bunch of beans, dal and lentils, plus root vegetables, beets, radish, sweet potato, ginger, served over some kind of grain for a complete protein structure like quinoa or rice. Lately, I've just started mixing quinoa directly into the pot to simplify the process of meal prepping the big bean even more. And you start to eat the big bean every day for lunch, you will start to crave it because of how good you feel. It is only in hindsight when we realize just how poorly we've been feeling. Like once we start to feel a bit better. You know, this dish is composed entirely out of whole foods, so there is no crash or brain fog after. And I distinctly remember realizing this contrast in how different foods make you feel after I'd done my securities, left construction, got licensed to trade, and I was working in finance, and I was sitting at my desk eating the big bean all throughout the week. But on Tuesdays, we would go for white spot burgers, and every Tuesday afternoon, I just felt like trash. I felt slow, lethargic, sleepy. I felt dumb because I've been used to feeling better, always eating my big bean for lunch, which is super clean. And then one day I have a burger, which I love. I mean, no hate, but it's just like dropping a preservative bomb on yourself with all of the flavoring and the food dyes and whatever else. And your body's like literally diverting resources away from your brain, your cognitive faculties, in order to process what you've just given it. This slop. And you know, I hate that feeling. And you will too if you get in the habit of meal prepping something a bit more clean. You know, feeling good physically and mentally go hand in hand, which is another reason why I don't do such a dramatic winter bulk and summer shred anymore. I used to go all the way up to 225, even 230 in the dead of winter, and then down to 195 in peak summer for the peak physique. And now it's between 200 and 215 pounds usually year round. I really think a small surplus year round is the move. And if you're gonna do a bulk and cut, you know, make it like a lighter winter coat. Making gains year-round while staying lean is epic. And on this note, you know, I don't count calories or track macros. I find that listening to the body and adjusting accordingly is really the move. You develop an instinct for what you need when you need it without the dietary formulas and equations and macro counters and spreadsheets, which by the way, even the best of these will never be able to account for everything. Life throws curveballs. You'll go away on work or vacation, something will happen that will upset your routine, and all of your careful formulas will be unbalanced. And all the while, your metabolic rate is changing as you're getting older. So there will just be too many variables, and even the best dietary formulas can't possibly account for everything, even if they're constantly being updated and reworked, which is its own little hell. Exhausting. Just some short-term experimenting with different things and seeing how your body responds is really the move if you want that long-term solution. And I know there's a lot of macro counters out there who will disagree and say they actually enjoy this approach, constantly counting calories. And you know, if that's true, more power to you. Honestly. But I think most people just stress counting the calories and seeing whether or not they can afford it. You know, achieve dietary freedom by increasing output and developing some metabolic instincts through specifically not counting calories. That's how you get in touch with your body. It forces you to listen to it because you're not just subcontracting the work out into a formula or a spreadsheet. Even things like comparing your energy levels after having a burger versus the big bean for lunch. These are great little experiments to run. So that's the morning through the afternoon. Now I'll have my big workout in the evening, fueled by the big bean. Like when it comes to lifting weights, I have a lot of respect for people who lift weights in the morning, man. Personally, I'll stick to cardio in the morning. You know, you are literally less awake in the morning. You just rolled out of bed, the blood's been pooling, you're stiff, you haven't had anything to eat. And if you do have something to eat before you lift weights first thing, well, you'll be digesting it while you're lifting. A little bit of indigestion while you're about to do a heavy squat is no fun. In my opinion, lifting in the evening is better because you're more awake, you've been moving around, the blood's been flowing, you've had something to eat and time to digest it. Maybe you're blowing off steam from the day, and then you can round off the perfect day with a dinner of meat and greens. Maybe some nice beef or chicken or fish. You can't beat animal protein. And after dinner, a cup of ginger tea to satiate those post-dinner sugar cravings, so you don't crush a bunch of ice cream. You know, the natural sugar and honey hits the spot, and that's all really perfect. And I know there's some people out there who will say, there's no way you're getting enough protein in just a couple meals per day. I am. 100%, I could maybe even do it in less, maybe even one big meal per day, especially when you add the bone broth in the morning and the great and powerful green drink, My favorite way to supplement additional protein, it's basically a spinach protein shake. And then I got the big bean for lunch and I got meat and greens for dinner. It's plenty. So in summary, some different fitness dailies geared more towards aesthetics, more cardio, same weekly program in the gym, the ultimate workout split, a decreased window for eating, and a dopamine detox and a few helpful recipes. This is my sort of comprehensive approach to peak physique.